Broke, explain the difference in Floricane and Primocane. You know, I have to do word associations. I'm a little slow. For those that y'all didn't know, I'm a little slow, so I do word association with everything that I do. For me to remember things, I have to do word association. I close my eyes and I have to see things in order for me to picture what it sounds closest to in order for me to remember it. So when I think of primo means first in Latin. It's first. It means to become first. So if you're looking at primo, I think of a baby, primo. Primo, primi, you know, like premature baby, it comes first. So I always visualize the baby, primo, primo, primo. Picture the baby, the infant. That lets you know it comes first. The flora is exactly what it says. The flower of the cane, the flower. What produces flower produces fruit. Flower. So anytime you remember flora cane, picture flower. It's that simple. Primo means premature, the baby. That's the new ones. Flora means flower. That's the blossom. That's where the fruit comes from. Broke is asking what's the difference between the two. The difference between now, I have what they call prime art, and I'm not going to get too far deep into the prime art uh, blackberries because it will get confusing to you. But I'll say the prime arc blackberries that I have, they both fruit on floricanes and primocanes. They fruit on new wood and they fruit on old wood. They fruit twice. They fruit on the primocanes and they fruit on the floricanes. That's called the prime, and that's the reason why it's called prime. That's primi again. Primocane, prime arc is for the primocane fruiting. So it fruits on the prime and the flora. That's the prime arc. Now, don't get caught up into that. Don't start asking me questions about that because it's going to get very confusing. If you do not have a prime arc, then this is non and void. I have a prime arc. So when I talk about this, I have to talk in terms of what the average person would have. The average person is not going to have a prime arc. That's why I get fruit in the spring and I'll get fruit this time of year also on my blackberries. Prime arc, primocanes, they fruit on both prima and flora. Most of the blackberries are going to be floricane fruiting. That's all they're going to fruit on, the floricanes. Your primocanes come up from the soil. That's the green new growth from this year. That's all your primocane is. It's the green new growth from this year. Once the primocane gets to the point there, that's where we tip it. That's what we did. We tipped all of our primocanes. That was the new growth that came up this year. And after your floricanes fruit for the season, that's where all your berries were on your blackberries, you chop them all the way down to the ground. Only that cane that actually gave you the fruit, you take it all the way down to the ground. That's how you prune your blackberries. Again, black raspberries and purple raspberries are pruned identical to blackberries. Raspberries, golden raspberries, red raspberries are pruned totally different. They fruit on the tips on their primocanes. Now, if you have an everbearing, you can make it fruit twice. You see all this fruit? All these berries are starting to come in now. This is a primocane. This is my golden raspberry. This is what she's gonna do. This one here, golden raspberry. She's gonna put on fruit on the top half of the cane. That's what all this is, the top half. So after she fruits, she's not gonna fruit on the top half anymore. You got two options. You can cut it all the way down to the ground and it'll produce one crop next year, one large crop. Or you can cut it halfway, take off only what has already fruited, and she'll fruit on the bottom half in the spring. And then you'll have new floricanes come up that'll fruit on the tip. That's how you get two harvests in one year. It's going to be smaller fruit, but you get two harvests. If you want the large fruit, you're going to take it all the way down to the ground. But you never want to tip your raspberries unless it's a black raspberry or a purple raspberry. Matter of fact, I got more hits on those blackberry videos than I did on the blueberry videos. I didn't realize that many people were confused about how to prune blackberries or raspberries for that matter. But for me, it was even simpler than the blueberries. The blueberry is kind of confusing to me. Even today, I have to be really selective on when I'm pruning my blueberries because the blueberries only get pruned when they've dropped all of their leaves and they're dormant. With the raspberries, there's so many different variables that go into it, but it really is simple. It's more simple than the blueberries to me. Pollinate that like button. That's what Double M says. Yes, not just that like button. Y'all know how I do. I like those reactions. Y'all hit them reactions over there. Star Sun Kid says, I have 3 bushes of red everbearing raspberries. Thank you for sharing with the clarity. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, the raspberries to me, it it's a lot more to do, but it's more simple. When you're dealing with the blueberries, it really is personal preference. Everything is personal preference when it comes to blueberries. How big do you want your bush? How wide do you want your bush? How many berries do you want? Do you want large berries? Do you want small berries? There's so many different variables that go into the blueberries that it can get overwhelming with the blueberries. But the blackberries is really cut and dry. It's like if you want 2 crops, you chop half of it off after the tip has fruited. If you want one, you take it all the way down to the ground. So basically, if you have nothing but raspberries this winter, you basically go in and cut everything down to the ground. There'll be nothing left up on the top. That way, spring comes, you'll have a whole flush of brand new, huge raspberries. That's what's going to make those raspberries large when you let them do it one time a year. But if you do a double crop, you're going to get more berries, but they're going to be smaller. That's how that works. Let me see here. Broke says, not all my blackberries fruited, so I should still prune. Yep. The thing that you want to take into consideration is tipping. Because what'll happen is you're going to get either disease or you're going to get insects. Spotted wing Drosophila. I hit that right the first time. Where David Corey at? David Corey gave me the key word to spotted wing Drosophila. He said Drosophila, Allah, like Allah. Again, word association. I have to see things in my head in order for it to make sense. When he said that, I was like spotted wing Drosophila. That's the fly that infects your blackberries, blueberries. It infects all the berries. Spotted wing Drosophila. That's what you want to keep in mind. What is this? SWD. We say SWV. Y'all remember the pop group SWV? We're going to say SWD. Spotted wing Drosophila. That is the fly that infects your berries and it'll overwinter if you do not prune your blackberries the correct way. So that's one of the things that I tell everybody. Once you prune your blackberries, do not compost them. Put them in a bag, a plastic bag, sit them out in the sun and let those babies cook because that's the only way that you're going to get rid of that spotted wing Drosophila. And that is the fly that infects the berries. And when they say your blackberries have flies in it or maggots in it, that's a true statement. And that's what happens when you allow those canes to overwinter. They'll burrow inside of those canes and then they'll come out the following season. And when those berries ripen, on the day that they ripen, they start piercing into those berries and they start putting those that larvae in there. Spotted wing Drosophila is what that's called. Now, this is a golden raspberry. These are Anne's. You'll notice all of her berries are on the tips. Now, the difference between the blackberries and the raspberries, if you have a black raspberry or a purple raspberry, it's pruned exactly the same way that you would prune your blackberries. How do we prune our blackberries? We tip them in the summer for our pruning to cause the lateral branching to stretch out. And in the wintertime, we do our second pruning. The wintertime, and I'm gonna take you over here and let you see, because this stuff is just so interesting to me, the way it works. And when you start seeing it, you see how this thing is starting to look like a little Christmas tree. I'm gonna go on the other side here. You see all these branches popping out right here? These are the laterals. That's what happens when you tip it. Remember, we just tipped this, what, maybe a month ago. This is the tip right here. Right there is where we tipped it. And what that does is it stops the apical dominance, and all of these start competing for that apical dominance, which means that all of them will start branching out. Now, what's going to happen is these will start to stretch out. In the wintertime, when she drops her leaves, we're going to let this get about 18 inches long, and then we're going to tip those laterals. The first pruning, in the summertime, that first pruning is for berry quantity. That's what we tip it for, berry quantity. That's going to make all these extra laterals pop out. So that's going to give you lots more berries as opposed to having one long. You got several. Now you have all these starting to branch out. They're going to come all the way out down here. Wintertime, we come back and we clip the tips of these back to 18 inches. That's going to push the size of your berries. That's why we get those big berries. That's going to push the size. So you're going to get more berries, and they're going to be larger when you do summer pruning and your winter pruning. That's how that goes. On the raspberries, again, these are ands, and you can see where these are already fruited on the tips. You see where all this here? This fruited. These are the primocanes. Now, once it fruits on the primocanes, I will come in and I will clip this right here during the winter time. I'll clip it where all the fruit has happened. And that is if you want two separate harvests out of this. If you only want one, you're going to take it all the way down to the ground in the wintertime. But if you want two harvests, the berries are going to be smaller, but you'll get two harvests, a spring and a summer, fall. You'll cut it halfway. And then what'll happen is these bottom ones will fruit. You'll get fruit off the bottom half. And that is how you do multiple prunes. That's how you do multiple fruits on here. So the first year on your primocanes, it's going to fruit on the top half of the cane. If you cut that half off, next year this becomes a floricane, and it'll fruit on the bottom half. Or you could just cut it all the way down to the ground, and you'll get a summer harvest of larger berries. Every blackberry in this bed right now is a primocane. All the floricanes have been harvested out. They've been cut all the way down to the ground. You see the nubs down there at the bottom? They've all been cut out. So everything that's in your blackberry bed right now should be a primocane. Everything in here is a primocane. That's your first year wood. That is what this green wood is. See all that green, all of that green wood. You see all of these laterals shooting off? That's because we topped it. And I'm gonna show you the tip again. You see that tip right there? And look at all the growth that's put on since we tipped it. That's where all your fruit's gonna be at next year. These same canes, when they come back next year, they're gonna be called floricanes. This year, they're called primocanes. You see the 5 leaves on there? The 5 leaves are only gonna be on your primocanes. They will not be on floricanes. Everything in this bed is a primocane. Next year, all of these will become floricanes. That's where your fruit's gonna be next year. That's how simple that is. She's a unique, she is really unique in her nature.